people. And, you know, it wasn't like, hey, let me kiss my own ass. So that's why I had to go there and do that. So that's why.
Yeah. Well, there's the cover image of the book is you in military uniform. And there are a lot of those other kind of books out there, you know, Chris Kyle. And I know you're tight with the Luttrell brothers. Those have been huge books, and they become movies and cultural, you know, very culturally relevant.
And another thing about that, I'm not a war hero.
Yeah,
I'm not a war hero, man. Like, you know, there's a lot of heroes out there, and I don't have a great story to tell you about war.
What is the climate, though, when you're in the SEALs and then somebody writes a book? Like, my sense was always that was kind of frowned upon. It is frowned upon
in the SEAL. A lot of things are frowned upon in the SEAL teams. A lot of things are. You know, that's one of them. I don't care what you do. You know, it's your life, and I'm not about judging people for that. But a lot of SEALs don't like anybody going out doing anything like that. And I don't know if it's a lot of jealousy or whatever. I don't care, but it is frowned upon for some people to do that. But I guarantee you, some of those guys, if they did some cool shit, you know, a lot of us don't do cool shit. Yeah. A lot of us see combat, not a lot of cool shit. So
but the book really isn't about. It's not some vainglorious thing where you're in battle and you're telling crazy war stories. No, it's not that at all. It
I don't have many war stories to tell.
So the reader is the hero, and another one of the themes that I want to kind of explore with you is this idea of being the only, right? Which is like a recurring thing in your story.
Right. So being the only, and I actually talked about with Adam. I came up with the only. There's a lot of onlys out there. I was the only black in a lot of situations. And the only isn't about a color. There's a lot of, you know, there's gays, there's lesbians, there's people who are white people who just feel like they're not wanted in society. That's the only. The only is feeling like you're not accepted in any society that you're in. Doesn't matter what color, creed, race, gender, doesn't matter. It's just that you are in this situation where you feel like you're being judged. You might be being judged. You feel awkward. It's an awkward feeling when you walk in a room and you're like, oh my God, like I'm the only. And that comes with a lot of people. And that's where the only really came from, because I didn't want to make it like a black situation. I want this is about people. You are your own hero. You are the hero of this book. So I want it to be, what's a word that can make people feel like this resonates with me? That's only. You know, it was about black or about white or about being Jewish or Christian or whatever. So that's where it comes from, man. It's about ownership of a lot of people feel like no one understands what the fuck I'm going through right now. And that's the only.
Right, and that seems to be something that you leverage to get stronger.
Oh, yes, the only is a very powerful thing for me. And there's a lot of times in my life that I chose the only on purpose. On purpose, just to see how I would come out the other end of it.
And in the midst of all of that, how do I say this? For somebody that's listening to this or they're reading your book and they do feel apart from, they feel alone, perhaps they have that victim mentality, right? They're just, the world's against me. I can't catch a break. Every time I try to do this happens. It's some narrative that they're spinning about their life.
Right.
Like, what's the first step out of that?
Well, like I've said a million times before, the most important conversation is the one you have with yourself. You wake up with it, you walk around with it, you go to bed with it. Eventually, you act on it. Sometimes you act on it good, sometimes bad. You got to change the internal dialogue. That person in your head that's talking that shit to you, until you change the internal dialogue in your head, until you callous over the victim's mentality that the world is out to get you because of you are the only, you got to change that shit, man.
Yeah, but you don't understand my life, David.
Yeah, I do. That's the thing about it. And that's why I can talk about it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. A lot of folks don't I get that mentality. I once had that mentality, that no one understands what the fuck I'm going through. And if you keep that mentality, you're going to stay in the same exact spot that you're in, that no one understands me. There's millions of people. Why do you think a book that I self-published, is doing so well? with a story that's so fucked up. People like, I'll never forget when I went to a publishing house, like, who's gonna resonate with this story? No one's gonna buy this book. I'm like, are you not in the world? Are you not in society? You're never alone. Everybody's going through shit. So when people get this mentality of like, you don't understand me, you can throw a fucking rock to someone that can understand you if they're willing to break themselves down and stop hiding. A lot of people understand you, but you gotta stop hiding. And that's why I tell people, a lot of people are going through shit, they just hide better than you did. That's all they did. They're just hiding better.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy, even after you've accomplished something, to not rest on your laurels or take a breath. Like you're somebody who's constantly moving forward.
I am.
But I think one thing that gets lost in your story is that you are pretty good about celebrating the victories along the way and celebrating yourself.
Who catch hold of it must find a way of staying in contact with what society calls reality. That is to say, if you have a radio, you don't only need an antenna, you also need a ground. So what happens in the world of mysticism, of psychedelic visions, and so on, needs to be grounded. So then there are always two directions in which such a discipline works. One, preparatory. In other words, those who taught disciplines for awakening in the Orient were always careful to screen, first of all to screen those who applied, and then after screening them to make them sensible, so that they knew how to handle the game of ordinary human existence and play it by the ordinary human rules. In other words, that they had strength of character and were not the sort of people who would be wiped out because they had no strength of character by an overwhelming experience. Then they let them in. But there are certain disciplines, such as Zen, where you get into the essential secret very early on in the discipline. And after that, they are concerned with much more training in showing you how to use it, how to use the power, to use the vision which you have acquired. And so it is with the current, what we will call LSD scene that is raging through the United States. It unfortunately lacks discipline. And I'm not trying to say this in a kind of severe, authoritarian, paternalistic way, but only that it would be so much more fun if it had it. In other words, when people try to express what they have seen in this kind of changed state of consciousness, they show 5 movies going on at once, projected upon torn bed sheets, with stroboscopic lights going as fast as possible at the same time, and 11 jazz bands playing. And they're going to blow their minds, baby. And everybody else who hasn't seen this thing look around and say, well, it's a mess. I don't like the looks of it. Let's suppose that while you were very, very high on LSD, you looked into a filthy ashtray and you saw the beatific vision, which is, of course, the case, because wherever you look, if your eyes are open, you will see the face of the divine. Then you come out of your ecstasy with the dirty ashtray and say to everybody, here it is. No. There is a possibility, if you are an extraordinarily skillful painter, or even photographer, of presenting the dirty ashtray so that everybody else will see almost what you saw in it. But you will have to have a technique which will translate every grain of ash into a jewel, because that's what you actually saw. But that requires mastery of an art. And I'm afraid people think that all it's necessary to do is just throw out any old thing, because under that transformed state of consciousness, any old thing is the works. But nobody else can see it if they haven't shared that point of view. So then, this becomes, for us in the United States, an extremely important social problem. The cat is out of the bag. We are living in a scientific world where secrets cannot be kept. And anyone, anytime, can pick up something which will short-circuit all the ancient religious techniques, yoga practice, meditation, etc., etc. This is all very embarrassing, but it will happen, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And they will see what all those sages and Buddhas and yogis and prophets saw in ancient times. And it will be very clear. So what? So you see, you can say, look at all these people who haven't seen it. This is a temptation. Look at them all going about their business, earning money and grinding it out at the bank or the insurance office or whatever it is every day, and how serious they look all about it, and they don't really know it's a game. And you can cultivate a certain contempt for people like that. But it's very, very bad to do that. Because, of course, don't forget, they have a certain contempt for you.